Hello, everyone. Welcome to Calm. Depending on when I post this video, we might have joined together live on Zoom or not. But if not, welcome. Thanks for joining me. And I'm going to be posting a series of these short videos. So here we go. This lesson is a short one, but it's an important one, and it's about how people actually use documents. So the first concept is we assume that people will read documents the way that we would read them, right? Because we wrote them. Everything we write is so important, right? But the reality is people don't read from beginning to end usually. Most people are very busy, especially in a work context. And so what they're going to do is skim, right? They're looking for the important piece of information that they need. So don't expect that someone's going to read your document from beginning to end. What will people actually do? Well, they're going to skim and they're looking for that, again, that relevant info. And how do they find that relevant info? Well, they're going to be looking for headings to tell them in which section is the information that they're looking for, right? They might use graphics. So for example, on the right side of the PowerPoint here, there's what we call an infographic, right? The idea is that it takes information and turns it into a graphical representation. So it's a little easier to digest and to find what you're looking for. So headings are one way, graphics are another way. People might ignore a lot of a document, especially if this is a long document. I mean, there's a temptation to skip over an email that's 5 paragraphs for some people to find what they're looking for. If you're looking at a 20 or 200-page business document, it might be that nobody ever reads that cover to cover. They're just looking for the specific information. So they're going to ignore a lot of that. Now, what people also do is they read the beginning of a document and the end. That's typically our human nature is, we're looking for an introduction section, an executive summary of a document, or we're going to the end and looking for conclusions or recommendations or something like that. So keep that in mind that if you want people to find the most important information, you're usually going to want to put it at the top of a document or at the end of a document. Now, what does this mean for email? Again, you might want to put the most important information right up front. In fact, you will. Um, People use subject lines to decide whether they open an email or not. If you're like me, you probably get a lot of email, and some of them are not always applicable to you. I have to be honest, Fanshawe sends out this very great, helpful, content-packed email about what's been happening at Fanshawe, people's tweets and accomplishments and people winning awards. I don't read them always because I don't always need to know what's in there. So if I see a subject line that says that's that email, I might skip it. And also people will expect reports to have summaries, right? If you look at academic research, there's usually an abstract that tells you what's in there. Or if you're looking at a report, there's an executive summary. So people will expect that in business documents. What does this mean for you? It doesn't matter how good your content is. It can't be just a wall of text. You can't just sit down and start writing, let's say in this case, an assignment and do it stream of consciousness, which means it's unedited, right? Look at the image on the right here. This is the classic wall of text, right? It's just text, line, sentence after sentence after sentence. And it's very hard for our eyes as humans to process this. It's very hard for us to find things as well. So this is a common mistake that my students make, is that they're not breaking up this wall of text. I don't ever want to see a wall of text. Please take that to heart. And you'll lose marks if I see a wall of text. So paragraphs are amazing. They're our friend, right? Make a hit enter twice, make a new paragraph, right? Now your eye has a bit of breathing space. I want you to, throughout this course, take into account page design. So, it's not just the content on the page. We want to make it look pretty. And that's not just an excuse to make art. We're not necessarily making art here. But making a page look good helps people find the information that they're looking for as well. I want you to take into account clarity. What are you actually trying to say? And be clear about that. Don't give me too many words, 100 words where 5 will do. We want to be concise. We want to help the reader navigate your documents. And in this course, the document is really usually the assignment that I'm giving to you. And the reader is me. I'm your professor. So if I can't find your main argument, if I don't see headings, if I don't see other graphical highlights, they're called. And by the way, we're going to get into more of this as the course goes on. But the point is, I want to be able to find the important information in your documents quickly. At a minimum, business documents should have headings, which means a title, usually. And it means each section, there's a heading, which, by the way, is in a bigger font, stands out from the rest of the document. Headings are like introduction, analysis, recommendations, conclusions. I'm going to be pretty good about giving you the format that I'm looking for because I'm training you what people in the work world are looking for, okay? So one solution to breaking up this wall of text, to getting around people's tendency to not read a document fully, is to use something called direct structure. This is a very important concept in the term because, well, first of all, you're going to be tested on what is direct structure, but also I want to see almost every one of your documents using direct structure. The exception to that is the bad newsletter, where you're going to use indirect structure. But for all other assignments, use direct structure. What is it? It's something that makes documents much more readable. In a simple phrase, it identifies your main point and puts that at the top. It identifies that as quickly as possible. So, for example, we have an email tomorrow here. I run a writer training company, and we used to do a writer pub night. So first, you can see there's a clear, concise email subject line. But also it says, a note about tomorrow's pub night. We're pleased to welcome two special guests, blah, blah. So the first thing I'm conveying is, hey, pub night is tomorrow, right? After the salutation here. But I'm not burying anything. I'm not adding filler or fluff. It's not, hey, I hope you're doing well. Cut that from your writing. It's not helpful. The most important information up front. In this Fanshawe letter here, yes, great, you've got a subject line, you've got the date, and then the salutation. But it also says, it tells you right up front, what is the most important information? I am pleased to advise that you have been admitted as a full-time student to 1 semester of the 4-semester, blah, 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 right? They're not keeping you waiting. That's good news. We generally want good news to be upfront, right? People love good news. And we don't want people to have to search for that, right? If that, hey, we've accepted you, is in the middle of the letter, some people might not read it at all. They might not even know that they were accepted to Fanshawe. So direct structure involves putting information usually at the top. Where's the other place that people read things? At the end, right? So the conclusion, the last line of the email, which is why I repeated a call to action at the end here. You can RSVP here, right? People are going to read, if nothing else, the first line and the last line here. So that's what it means for emails. In longer documents, absolutely, you probably will write a longer report. It's certainly in this course, probably in your work as you go through the work world. In longer documents, sure, you may need some context before you get to the main point. But the point is, usually you want to use direct structure, which is put the important information up front. Moving on. So why do we do this? Direct structure gets rid of filler words. You see all this stuff on the right? This is classic student jargon. In conclusion, now that we have established, then my next example, all of that's kind of filler. If you were to, and what I mean by filler is, could you cut it and still get the same meaning in a sentence? If so, then you want to cut it. It's probably filler. People don't like dense, wordy documents. People like, let's get to the point as quick as possible because no one has time to read the extra stuff, right? Your professor included. And here's an excellent quote by one of my favorite authors. Perfection is achieved not when there's nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. Listen, if you're like me, some of your high school teachers might have given you some bad habits, right? In high school, let's say an English course or a business course, you were taught to tell us what you think. Give me, a lot of words on this subject. Use your voice, give me complex, complicated words. Unfortunately, that was not really good advice. It was maybe good advice to teach you how to express yourself, but now we want to express ourselves in a more concise way, right? So what can you take away from a sentence, from a document, from a paragraph. If you can cut it and still have the same message, you probably want to cut it. Next slide, eliminating filler and jargon. Here's a great example. On the left, we have, should you have any questions or concerns regarding the above, please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned. What does that mean? Right? You're going to see language like this, especially, and I hate to say it, in a lot of academic documents. A lot of people that have spent their life in academia, right, like this. It's not very effective. It's not what normal people can understand. So you can see on the left here, that's a grade 9 reading level essentially, right? Which is the complexity. But what this really means on the left here is, if you have any questions, please call me, right? That's a grade 2 reading level. Someone in grade 2 can read that and understand it. Do the thing on the right. Don't do the thing on the left. I much prefer you to be concise. If anyone's read Hemingway, you know that the power of his writing is in what he leaves out. He doesn't have a lot of extra flowery language. It's just to the point. It describes exactly what he's trying to say, and it's beautiful still, but it's minimalist, right? I'm a minimalist. I hope you'll be a minimalist too, because we don't need all the extra jargon in your writing, okay? So that's a big point in this course. Be concise, not just with your writing, but with your speaking as well. So how about, because this is a recorded lecture, normally we do this live in class, but why don't you stop the video now and take 2 minutes to rewrite this sentence in plain language, okay? In plain language just means what the average person, the lay person could understand. So read it out loud, I would prefer, and then pause the video and try to just rewrite only what is essential from the sentence. Cut the filler, okay? Okay, welcome back. So you've taken your time to rewrite this in plain language. How'd you do? What'd you cut? I'm hoping that you cut, the reader would do well to mark an important fact related to writing. Okay, that's filler. That's just a bunch of words strung together. It does mean something. It's grammatically correct. There's no spelling mistakes, but it's fluff. It doesn't need to be there. So next is writing in a clear and concise manner. Okay, so maybe now we have something that we want to include, which is writing clear and concise. Namely, that's something you should probably never use, that if one wants his or her reader to grasp the main message quickly, a priority should be placed on eliminating unnecessary filler and jargon that ruins simple sentences and prevents good writing. This is really a terrible line. It's a terrible sentence, actually. It's just far too jargony. So how could you make it simpler? Well, what are the main points, right? So you could say, clear and concise writing helps a reader grasp the main message quickly. In order to do that, eliminate unnecessary filler and jargon. Boom, that's the end. Or you could just say, to write clearly, eliminate unnecessary filler and jargon, period, right? We went from what, 50 words to like 8, right? It says the exact same thing, but it's much more streamlined. It's much more minimalist, right? That's what we want in this course and in the rest of your life as well. So work on that. Okay, moving on here. A little bit more about why we use direct structure. It puts the information in a prominent position, right? We said that people read usually the beginning of a document and the end of a document. So here we have the classic, wanted poster. I don't know if this is a real person or not, but it serves to illustrate our point, so we're going to use it. What's the first thing? Reward, right? In big letters with the amount underneath it. And $5,000, 100 years ago would be quite a lot of money. So then they give some more information in the middle, and then they end with the call to action. The call to action is just, what do you actually want the reader to do, right? So immediately contact the nearest US Marshal's office if you see this bad dude. So perfect example of direct structure. Important information at the top and at the bottom as well, secondarily. Readers are paying attention to the top, right? Think about what you look for when you're studying. I hope you're not reading your textbook cover to cover, because that would be inefficient. By the way, hopefully some of you or all of you are at least taking a speed reading course, because that'll help you immensely in your life and especially in your schooling. Speed reading is amazing. What do you look for when you're studying your textbook? Usually, introduction and the conclusion, right? We have direct structure not just in the document. So let's say the document is a training manual for your new job, right? Ideally, if it's using direct structure properly, the stuff at the beginning of the document is most prominent and helpful. The most important information is up top and at the end, right? So you would be maybe as a new employee looking for the introduction of that document and the conclusion. And in that way, you're going to find the most important information. But direct structure also applies in smaller chunks inside the document. So what are the smaller chunks? We're talking about chapters. So a chapter should start most important information at the top. Again, maybe some kind of conclusion at the end. And then even within a paragraph, you have a, maybe a paragraph starts with a statement or a question or a subject, and then it gives you some information in the middle, and then it restates that or concludes at the end of that paragraph, right? So this is, it's a microcosm. You can go like Russian dolls nesting, right? You can go smaller and smaller and smaller, but we want to see in every chunk of information, you're using direct structure. Hopefully that makes sense. You can always email me, by the way. Let me show you a real life example. So as I said, I have a writer training company called So You Want to Write, and we produced a document called The Ultimate Guide to Getting a Literary Agent, which is basically a manager for writers. And I've structured it like this. There's an introduction, there's a table of contents, chapter and section headings so that the reader can skip around if they want to. I've used bulleted lists. By the way, I'm a big fan of bulleted lists in moderation because it helps you present information that is grouped together. So a list is it should be in a bulleted list or something, or a numbered list. And by the way, this document I'm about to show you, it's relevant to the audience. So I'm not speaking to everyone. I'm just speaking to people that will be interested in this subject. And I've used examples, which are both written and graphical. So let's bounce over to the actual website here where the document lives. I hope you can still see this. Here it is. So the Ultimate Guide to Getting a Literary Agent 2020. What is it? Oh, this is a comprehensive guide to finding and signing a deal with a literary agent for your novel or nonfiction book so you can launch your writing career in 2020. That is direct structure in action. It's telling you exactly what this is and who it's for, basically. And then we go straight into what are you going to learn. I've summarized essentially the whole document here. This is if I recall, it's like a 5,000-6,000 word document. But I'm giving you exactly what you're going to find so that you can decide if you want to read this or not. Maybe you clicked here accidentally and you don't want to read this. Then I've got a table of contents, which if you have a long document, you should have a table of contents. And these are clickable links to get you around in the document. So if you don't want to know about the basics, you can skip ahead to how to write a query letter. Then about the author, about the company, it's a little bit about, do you want to read this, or should I read this? Then we have here, look, a heading. This is a chapter heading. And then we have smaller headings as well. So do this in your assignments. I want to see a title, usually. I want to see headings, and not for everything, not for the email, but generally we want to see some of these things used. Look, what else am I doing? I'm using a lot of paragraphs. This is extreme, I would say. I admit that. But when you're writing for the internet, it's slightly different. People have a shorter attention span. It's harder to read on a screen than it is on paper, I find. So you got to break up your paragraphs a little bit to keep people reading. So anyway, it goes on. You see that, okay, this quote is bolded and it's bigger and bigger font. By doing these things, by using paragraphing, by using headings, bullets, italics, bolding, what else is there? Underlining, sparingly, by the way. You don't want to overdo this. You help people find the information they're looking for, right? So look, yeah, do I need a literary agent? Well, this is the section's going to answer that. You know that because that's the heading. Yeah, and then later in the document, I've got some graphics to show you exactly what you're looking for. Hopefully being helpful for the reader. It just helps to break up the page too, to use graphics. We're going to do a whole lesson on that in a couple of weeks. So I hope you're seeing what I'm doing here. It's not a wall of text, right? Wall of text would be very hard to read. If I had just done this in one long paragraph, it would be a disaster. You would not want to read that. So now it's much easier to read. Back to PowerPoint. All right, so that's one real life example. There are times when you do not want to use direct structure. You don't want to tell someone in the first line of a letter, I'm sorry, but you're fired. Right? You probably never want to fire someone in a letter at all. But you don't want to give bad news in direct format. And we have a whole lesson on indirect format, and we have an assignment related to this as well, where I'll teach you how to deliver bad news. There's a structure, there's a format for this. Um, it's used when someone's going to be disappointed, shocked, upset, or when you want to maybe persuade someone. So a sales letter it never starts with, "Hey, buy this product for $200," right? You're going to see a bit of a sales process in the letter. That's an indirect structure as well. But anyway, for now, we're just using direct structure, which is put the most important information at the top, up front. Okay, so that's the end of this lecture, but I do want to give you some reading, short pages here from your textbook. You can find the link to your textbook on our FOL page. I posted it in the announcements. It's on the required course resources. It's a PDF, it's free. Go download it or just copy the link to the PDF and go read these short pages. I don't know, it's what, like maybe 20 pages, less than that, I think 10 pages. So read about direct structure, the 6 C's of style, and how to trim your draft, which is what we're talking about related to being concise and cutting filler. Okay, and then there is an assignment this week, I believe. So check FOL now for this week's assignment, and check it every week because there are assignments most weeks, if not all, in this course. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the FOL page.